Hey everyone, it's Cracklin here. I'm about to start leveling my mage through Mists of Pandaria, and I want to get to 90 as fast as possible. So I figure we might as well pick the spec that's going to be the fastest. So I went through each spec, did a little bit of research, and I figured out which one's the fastest. Now it's all based off of which spec can kill about 12 to 15 mobs the fastest. Because usually when you're questing, you're going to an area, killing a whole bunch of mobs, going back to the quest giver, turning it in, then repeating it. So I'm going to go through every spec. I'm going to show the rotation and how to play each of them if you do want to level as one of those other specs. Because they are all pretty close, but there is one that's the best. So let's get right to it. Alright, the first spec we're going to look at is Fire. The most important abilities you need to know here is Pyroblast. That becomes an instant cast spell if you get 2 crits in a row, and also does 25% more damage. Next is Inferno Blast. That gives you a guaranteed crit. So if you're trying to get your 2 crits in order to get an instant cast Pyro, then wait for either Scorch or Fireball to do a crit, and then cast Infernal Blast right away. Then you can cast your Pyroblast. We also have Combustion. Combustion will increase the dot effect on any mobs that currently have either the Pyroblast dot or the Ignite dot on them. And it also resets the cooldown on an Infernal Blast. So you can make some pretty sick combos here. As for glyphs, you're going to want Frost Nova, Deep Freeze, and Fire Blast. That last glyph, if you cast Frost Bomb on a target and then you cast Infernal Blast, that will spread the Frost Bomb onto any mobs that are within the area. Talent-wise, I pick Scorch. That's great for trying to get your first crit, and then you can follow that up with Infernal Blast. Ice Barrier, Ring of Frost, Cold Snap, and Frost Bomb. I usually start off with Frost Bomb and then follow that up with a Fireball, as you're going to see when I show you the rotation. Alright, before we start watching this video, I need to tell you what the basic fire rotation is, because you're going to get confused very fast. Freaking pyro bombs and stuff just going all over the place. So we're going to open up with a Frost Bomb. Then we're going to follow that up with a Fireball. And at any point, even throughout your whole rotation, if you have 1 crit, you're going to cast Infernal Blast right away, because that will give you 2 crits. Then you can do your instant Pyro. So anyways, we cast Frost Bomb, Fireball, if that crits, Infernal Blast. If it doesn't crit, you're going to cast a Scorch, which might give you 1 crit. Then you cast Infernal Blast, then Pyro. If at any point you're kind of far away from the mob and you don't have a crit yet, you're always going to cast Fireball. Scorch is for only when the mob is close to you and you need to be running and casting Scorch, trying to generate that first crit. Now, when you do get the first crit, you cast Infernal Blast, Pyro, and if Combustion is up, cast Combustion. If a mob gets close to you, cast Frost Nova and then Deep Freeze. Since Shatter is included in all specs, that Shatter will give you pretty much guaranteed crits on any targets that you're casting on. So you can use Scorch while the mob's in Deep Freeze. That will give you guaranteed 2 crits. Cast Pyro, because that will be instant then. That Pyro will also crit, giving you 1 crit towards your hot streak. Then you can cast Infernal Blast right away, and then another Pyro, which will give you insane amount of damage. I know that's a lot to absorb, but take a look at this video and we're going to go through an example. So now let's see how a Fire Mage plays while leveling. You're going to open up with Frost Bomb, cast a Fireball hoping for a crit. We did get a crit. Now I should have cast Infernal Blast there right away to get the instant Pyro, but I missed it. Now we have that hot streak. There's an instant Pyro. Try to work up for another double crit here. We got it. We can cast it on another mob. Pyroblast. We can cast a Deep Freeze here, which is going to give us pretty much guaranteed crits. And see, it's just going crazy now. We've got all these instant Pyros. That's what makes Fire actually really fun to level with. If a mob gets too close to you, you can use Dragon's Breath. And we just send in Pyroblasts everywhere. Makes this spec very versatile and very fun to play. I went on to kill a whole bunch more mobs. I recorded the average amount of time it took for a kill, and it came out to 12 seconds. So let's see how Frost and Arcane match up. Alright, if you've stuck around with me through that whole Fire Mage explanation, then you're really dedicated to being a better mage. Let's get through Arcane here. Arcane is all about managing your arcane charges. Some spells like Arcane Blast and Arcane Missiles generate one charge, whereas Arcane Barrage consumes all the charges. You can have a maximum of 6 charges. Arcane Missiles doesn't cost any mana, but does benefit from the amount of arcane charges you have, and it generates a charge for you. Arcane Barrage takes away all of your charges, so you only cast Arcane Barrage if you're starting to get low on mana and you want to reset all the charges. For talents, I pick Ice Flows because that's good to cast while you're doing your Arcane Blast, Ice Barrier, Ring of Frost, Cold Snap, and Frost Bomb. For glyphs, it's the same as fire, except we're going to be using Glyph of Slow, which applies slow automatically when you cast Arcane Blast. Luckily, Arcane's a lot easier to explain than playing fire. It's basically comes down to your arcane charge management and your mana management. Even though you have all these arcane charges and you're doing crazy amounts of damage, you're going to run through your mana very fast. So you just got to look at your mana. If it's above 70%, you're going to be casting Arcane Blast and then Arcane Missiles whenever that procs. And it's just going to be building up all the charges and you're going to be like 2 or 3 shotting mobs. But you're going to get very low mana very quickly. So if you're below 70% mana, then cast Arcane Barrage, which is going to reset your arcane charges, and then things are going to start costing less amounts of mana. Although you're going to do less damage, it will keep you in that nice zone of never running out of mana and then doing the maximum amount of damage as possible. Here's an example of the rotation we're going to use. Arcane Blast, we're going to start building up our arcane charges now. Arcane Missiles gives us another charge. So now we're up to about, I would say, 6 charges. And you're going to see the opening up shot we do here is going to hit for a big amount of damage. Yep, took him down about a quarter or a third of health. But if you also take a look at the mana we have right now, it's at about 80% mana, which isn't too bad. But see here, these next couple of shots are going to bring us down really low pretty quickly. That took 10% of our mana, down to 65%. So we're going to end with an Arcane Barrage there, which is going to reset everything. But now things get slower again because we got to build up all of our charges. But if we continued with more Arcane Blasts, we'd go down to probably like 40% mana. And Arcane's Mastery benefits, you get more spell power damage with the higher amount of mana that you have. So if you're at 100% mana, you're going to do way more damage than if you're at only 20% mana. So here we're building up the charges again, always doing Arcane Missiles when we have the proc, and then you end off with the Barrage if you're under 60% or 70% mana. So I continued on with playing Arcane like this, and the average amount of time it took for a kill was 13.3 seconds, which is worse than fire. And now on to Frost, which is one of my favorite specs. Notable spells here is you have Frostbolt, which will slow the target by 50%. It'll do damage, and you can put 3 stacks of Frostbolt onto a target, which with each stack increases the damage done by 5%. You have a permanent water elemental, and you also have Fingers of Frost, which is a proc that happens, it's 12% chance that your Frostbolt, Ice Lance, or even Scorch is 9% chance, that will apply the Fingers of Frost effect, and that will make it seem like the target is frozen, giving you pretty much an instant crit. It also increases your damage of Ice Lance. And then you have Ice Lance, where the damage done is quadrupled if it's against a frozen target. We also have Brain Freeze, which is triggered when you cast Frost Bomb on a target, and right when the Frost Bomb goes off, you can use Brain Freeze, which makes your Frost Firebolt spell an instant cast spell. For talents, we're going to go with Ice Flows, Ice Barrier, Ring of Frost, Cold Snap, and Frost Bomb. And for glyphs, we're going to, instead of have Slow or Fire Blast, which we had for the 2 other specs, we're going to pick up Evocation instead in that place, which will just give us health back when we cast Evocation. Here's the basic rotation for Frost. You're going to start off with a Frost Bomb, followed by Frostbolt, and then your Pet's Freeze. With your Pet's Freeze, you're going to get Fingers of Frost proc, and then you can use the Deep Freeze on the target, and then cast 4 Ice Lances on the target. That should most likely kill everything that you're going to be fighting, but the Frost Bomb is going to go off, and give you a brain freeze proc, which makes your next frost firebolt an instant cast spell. So then cast that on your next target, and it's going to be too dynamic to really come up with an exact rotation for every mob, but you're going to be wanting to use your frost orb whenever you have that available. That will give you a whole bunch of fingers of frost procs. Use all of those fingers of frost procs on Ice Lance unless you have a deep freeze available, and make sure you use deep freeze whenever that is up. So here's an example of the rotation. So we're going to open up with a frost bomb, follow that up with a pet freeze, use deep freeze, and finish it off with some ice lances. The frost bomb blew up, so you got the frost fire proc. Use that on the next mob. We're going to throw out the frozen orb, and you're going to see a whole bunch of fingers of frost procs going off here. We got another brain freeze because that frost bomb blew up. You can use frost firebolt here to start off with. Use the ice lance on the fingers of frost proc because frozen, the pet freeze was down, and deep freeze was down. You can see this is just way faster than fire and arcane was. The main thing here to keep up your speed when you're killing mobs is make sure you're casting the frost bomb as well as using that frozen orb that I just threw out there. And this is why frost is my favorite spec. So now that we've done every spec and we've recorded how much time it's taken to kill each mob on average, the results are in. Frost kills a mob within 10.5 seconds on average, whereas arcane was 13.3 and fire was 12 seconds. So frost is the fastest spec, but you know, they are kind of close enough that if you really do enjoy playing fire more or arcane more just because of their playstyle, then go ahead and do that. When I switched to fire to make this video, it was actually really fun because sometimes you can get lucky and get a whole bunch of crits in a row and you're just throwing out pyroblasts, and it's a pretty awesome playstyle when the numbers are in your favor. But I found frost was more consistent and you're always killing things really fast. You didn't get an unlucky streak like you could with fire. Thanks for watching the video, everyone. Again, I'm Cracklin, and this is the first video I'm uploading to this channel on Cracklin TV. I'm going to be doing a lot of streams, so come hang out with me and watch me play. I'm going to be doing some BGs. Currently level 86 on my Mage, but I'm going to be powering through and getting 90 very soon, and I'll be streaming that whole thing. So yeah, come by and check the channel and see what I've been up to. See you later, guys.